Welcome to Invest. We talk about investing, finance, and professional development. So current time on 9:08 a.m. on the Eastern Time on February 18th. Hope you guys have a good weekend so far, and also hope you guys had a good week, by the way. Ethereum $100,695, up about 0.04% so far. On the overall crypto market, as of this morning, I would say it's relatively mixed bag as we had a relatively interesting Friday. The whole entire day has been relatively more of like a digestion day, reflecting on the negative CPI and the PPI report that we have, basically gotten in the span of the last Wednesday and Thursday. And as of Friday, obviously, it typically is a day of reflection on what happened within the week. And we were leaning more towards a downside of the day over, like, basically the course of the whole day. We reached one point of 1750, well, 1742 to be exact, but during the day it kind of just subsided a little bit, gliding downward to the next level of support of 1650, which is exactly where we actually bounced, at 1648 to be exact. And then subsequent to that, as the markets start to close up, knowing the fact that next Monday is the President's Day, so the market will actually be closed on the 20th. So that translates into some buying pressure ahead of the long weekend that we're going to be durating until the 21st. So what's happening right now? We are forming clearly some sort of a consolidation pattern. But if you really look closely, it does look like we are forming something that we have been, observing, and this will be more prominent if you look at this on a weekly, right? You could see clearly we are forming this kind of cup and handle. You could see that this is a cup and this is a handle. So the level that we are at right now, looking at the daily, you could see that clearly we have crossed up, so which translates into us surging to the 1750. But it seems that we were there already, at the 61 out of 70. On the weekly front, you could see that with respect to current level, extended, you could see that with two separations, the 55 out of 70. And on a monthly, you could see that we are gliding, the 48 out of 70. So it looks relatively mixed, based on what we see so far. The monthly does look bullish. Weekly does look like we are still in formations of this cup and handle. But what we really need to do to really see some elevation from here is basically, this is basically the first staircase. So we need to form like higher ascension. So this is like the first step. We are forming the next step right now. So we need to form something that's called a higher low. So any lower levels to form consolidation needs to be in a higher platform. So what we ideally need to see is like basically come up, hit 1750, which is exactly what we did, come down to ideally somewhere around 1650, 1550. And you could see that clearly even hit 1450, which is exactly where we expected because of the more of a closer in proximity, and then it's a little bit more substantive in comparison to higher levels as well, forming this another reversal. And what that will do is basically forming a handle, and as we form the handle, then we can continue to leap up from here. But the weekly, you can see that a large separation. We do need to kind of mute by crossing down a little bit before we go up. So the daily looks okay. Weekly looks obviously a little bit more bearish, but it's just like the formation is being performed in front of us. And then on Bitcoin side of the equation, you can see that we have had some interesting volatility, and the cup and handle is a little bit more prominent. You can see that the two bars, they're forming clearly this cup. So the whales and institutional and retail investors are obviously interested at these levels. And on the weekly, on the daily, apologies, you can see that we are forming that as clearly as well. But what's being formed at the moment, it seems that we're forming this like upward wedge as well. So as the extensions continues, which we are kind of at the 60 out of 70 on the weekly, we should ideally see some like lower level coming down, right? Because it seems like the handle is a little bit too high for our tasting. So coming down to ideally retest anywhere from like 22,000 to 21,500 will be very logical, until we all align on the front of with respect to the elevations. You could see that we're landing, and as we further escalate upward from here on a monthly, we should ideally see some technical reversal sometimes by transition from Q2 to Q3. So something to be aware of. And something that's interesting, it seems like we are in the mid of a reversal. I'm not saying we're confirmed, but with respect to the report that came out on the CPI and the PPI front, it wasn't like the best, but it was kind of a mixed signal. It seems like investors are a little bit muted now. I mean, if you look at this like a more of a progression perspective, the rate hike has been what, like 25 basis point, 50 basis point, 75, 75, 75, and 50 basis point, 25 basis point. So it seems like we have this like kind of reverse pump, like more of like a, what do you call that, a U shape. So with this type of pattern, it seems like we are progressing. So that's not terrible. And with the muted type of psychology behind investors, as we get over the tax season, I wouldn't be surprised if the bull market will start to begin, like a little bit like, during Q2 coming up. So I am a little bit optimistic based on the experience that we've been getting so far. And then just take a look at the news front before we kind of wrap it up for the day, and we can all head off to our beautiful weekend. It seems like, yeah, the news front are relatively muted. It's not really, that much up or down, up or down. It's just kind of trivial news at this point. So not terrible. And then with respect to some other news that we need to kind of be aware of coming up is, as you know, the Adani Group debacle. It seems like on the PR front, they're relatively buttoned up. But, the exposures that they have is still quite sizable. And also any repercussions with respect to the FTX SBF news, it seems like it was more muted now. We haven't really heard much. And the tax season, how are people dealing with this? And with respect to the COVID situation, which we have not heard from in a while, have we forgotten about this already, or are these just like little small balloons that will pop later in the future? So we'll see how that goes. But enough of the worrying. Have a great weekend coming up. I'm gonna be heading to the gym after basically 2 weeks of not going to the gym. But anyways, enough of the trivial stuff. Let's get on to the day. And I appreciate you for joining me. And take care. Bye.